The first thrust nearly cost him an eye. The second Will managed to parry at the very last moment, and the third forced him desperately backwards, but too swiftly to maintain his balance. The movement almost sent him tumbling over as he fought to avoid the rapier's point. His attacker paused for an instant to survey Will, but a second later the next thrust came, aimed at his midriff. Will swiped at the blade. A defensive movement across his body that managed to block the blow. It was but a temporary respite, however, and the next thrust from his opponent might have sliced through him if Will had been closer to his attacker. He stepped quickly to one side and tried to get around his assailant, but was soon closed in again. For a second time, as he tried to dodge the thrust of the sword, he almost fell. "This is no sport. Come at me," his attacker urged, beckoning him with his free hand as he jabbed at Will with the other. Will stepped to one side so quickly he collided with a wall, and it knocked the wind out of him. His pride was injured more than his body, and the taunts continued. He was slow, he was ungainly, he was very far from being a warrior. "I was not ready," he called back, aware that it was a weak objection to the first thrust which had come a dozen blows earlier. He had been on the defensive ever since. "My sword cares not whether you're ready. Yours sleeps in your hand." "There's no balance to this blade," Will protested, and he wiggled the sword out in front of him, regarding it suspiciously. His adversary would hear nothing of this. "What is the purpose of a rapier if you know not how to use it?" "I know how to use it." "Are you sure? It's not just part of your apparel. This is your weapon. Do you even remember the moves?" The other man was scornful. "I remember them well enough," it was said through gritted teeth. "Remember your own, Richard." "Ready, then?" And without waiting for an answer, Richard Burbage launched himself at Will, thrusting out the rapier once more, calling out the moves as if he was the other man's dance partner, while Will tried frantically to parry them. His friend stopped, stepped back, and immediately urged Will to, "Now thrust and lunge." This he managed to do, though not well enough to satisfy Burbage, who swatted his sword thrusts aside contemptuously. "Convince me, Will. Make it real. Or at least make it seem so. Convince me," his fellow actor repeated, "or you will not convince the audience." Will would have rallied then, eager as he was to show his friend he was a better man than evidenced by his ungainly part in this feeble duel. But before he could do so, they were prevented from further combat by a familiar voice that roared up at them. It came from the space before the stage, where the groundlings stood during a performance. Though it was now empty, it barely contained the older man's fury. "William Shakespeare, if you break my scenery, you will pay for it, by God." Then the theatre owner turned his attention to the other man. "Or my son shall." James Burbage regarded Richard scornfully, with the contempt a father reserves for a son he genuinely fears will come to naught.